Hello and welcome. Welcome back. Actually, I am Jess Campmans, guided by Equus, and this is day 3 of the 12 days of Christmas through the wisdom of the horses, guided by Equus. I was hoping to do some of these live, and so today it finally warmed up a little bit, and even though our Wi-Fi and internet isn't working too well, hopefully I can bring through day 3 in a format, because day 2 is still floating somewhere in the ethers. I pressed publish on it yesterday, and I don't know why it hasn't shown up, but hopefully it will come through in all good time. And thank you to everyone who's joining me live today in this day 3 session, and for everyone who's watched day 1 and 2. And if you haven't watched it yet, you can just find it on the Guided by Equus Facebook page. And I would love to hear your own experiences of these gifts of horse wisdom, life lessons learned through the heart of horse, that have been an integral part of my life. And so today, day 3, I'm just going to zip up my coat here a little bit more, is actually has to do with kind of where we're at in 2020. And as we come to, we're within 7 days of the shortest day of the year here in the Northern Hemisphere. And actually that means that in about half an hour, the sun will be down. But what I wanted to share is just to kind of reflect on your biggest challenge that you faced this year. And my biggest challenge that I faced this year is this horse right behind me, and her name is Summer. And this actually is what she did to me for most of this year. And that can be interpreted in many ways, but I want to back up first and share her story of how she came to be here, and then kind of bring you forward through that to what I finally, hopefully, have got some deeper wisdom on, which only showed up in the last week or so, I would say. So Summer's mom, I got her a number of years ago, hi Daisy, and I wanted to breed her to a stallion that I had leased, and I tried breeding her to this stallion for 5 months straight. And then my husband and I were leaving for a weekend that I knew that mare was going to come back into heat. So, but I thought, well, if Paisley, Summer's mom, hasn't actually caught, why don't I put her with somebody else and see, it's kind of a long shot in the dark and a last chance. But so I put Summer's mom, Paisley, with my other stallion, and I had no idea if she actually had got bred until finally next spring, when out came Summer. And after I did the blood work and DNA on her to register her, I realized that indeed my plans of breeding her to the stallion that I wanted to be her sire, that was a no-go. And by just letting go of the fact that I thought I needed to have a number of his offspring, Summer came about because her sire ended up being one of my other stallions. But in the long run, it actually ended up working even better than I could have ever planned, because she has now, in turn, been able to gift me a number of different babies that are of different horses in my program. And so it's like kind of that idea of yesterday that I talked a little bit about, putting something out there and then letting the universe kind of take care of it. And then back then I didn't really realize I was doing this. I just knew I really wanted a foal. And so it was kind of a last-ditch effort to put Summer's dam with this other stallion to cover her, in the hopes that at least I would get a foal. And so Summer is one of 2 fillies that her sire Eagle gave me before he passed away this spring. So actually, Summer's sire and dam, Eagle and Paisley, passed away within less than 12 hours of each other in this year, April. And I would say that normally that was a huge challenge that I'd faced. But a couple years before summer came, I had lost 7 horses in a matter of less than a year almost. And with that, it was an initiation into the idea of what is beyond death. And so being able to be with these 2 horses in their last few hours here on Earth, I knew that something was coming this year that was going to transform this entire herd. What I didn't realize is how much summer would block and be my greatest challenge this year. Because like I said before, this bum of hers kept blocking me. And Summer's not even my horse, actually. My oldest daughter, Rayanne, decided when she was about 8 years old and Summer was born, she really wanted Summer to be her horse. So I kind of indulged that, and Rayanne has been working with Summer and has grown up with her, and has ridden her a handful of times. And yet this year, Summer was not only blocking me, but was blocking Rayanne also. And kind of this really started, I guess, when COVID hit here and all the kids had to come home out of the school system and start doing online school. And Rayanne and I were able to work more with the horses together rather than just when she would come home after school. So it got to be kind of a beautiful gift that COVID gave us, was me being able to teach what I know about this idea of healing with horses, and having a different kind of relationship with them to Rayanne. But Summer continued to block and block and block and block. And there was an increasing level of frustration within both Rayanne and I, because I couldn't even understand what was going on, until finally one day I realized, I said, Rayanne, I can't do this. Like, I can't. Rayanne wanted to do some barrel racing with Summer, and she just wanted to get on and saddle her and start, working on barrel racing. And I wanted that for her, in as much as I wanted to be able to help share what Summer was trying to show her about looking inward and inside herself and at her internal motivations as to why she wanted to do, why she was there. And so finally one day, and this went all the way till June 1st was finally the day I said, I can't do this anymore. If I'm going to stand here, I have to be congruent with who I am as I want to show up here. And so as much as I want you to be able to ride Summer, I also want to be able to share this deeper wisdom with you that these horses are continually showing us and inviting us to connect with them in a different way, and different in that it's revealing more of who we are, and more of a more authentic way to connect to them, and building a greater harmony within our relationship with them. And so all of these aspects led me to kind of share with Rayanne. I said, I can't authentically want you to get on her and want to be here teaching you how to do this. I said, one of these two is not in congruence with who I am and why I'm here. And so we kind of discussed it, and she got a little bit upset, and then kind of let that go and sat up on the fence. And I said, if you just invite her and ask her to come to you, and within 5 minutes of Rayanne going to sit on the fence, Summer walked from the middle of the pen over to where Rayanne was, and Rayanne was just sending her pictures and kind of talking to her from her heart, is how I described it. And Summer walked over and lined herself up with Rayanne, and Rayanne climbed on bareback and just used her hands to kind of start to guide her around the pen. And Rayanne, being the oldest of my kids, like any of us who were the oldest kids, I was an oldest kid in my family, we role model our parents. And so Rayanne always thought that she needed to be as good as I am, but I'm 41 years old and she was 13 years old at the time. And I said, I knew that this was possible. And she said, yeah, but Mom, I just want to be like you. I said, when I was 13, there was no way I was doing this with a horse, because I had to live through the experience of having to do things the hard way and finding out that horses have a different gift for us if we're open and willing to pay attention to that. I said, I went through so many struggles to be able to teach this to you, and here it is, and you just accomplished it. Now, that would have been nice if that was all said and done. But the rest of the year, up until about a week ago, Summer then continued to show up, blocking any sort of forward momentum progress with the riding. And what I finally realized last week is, because like everything else that's going on in the world right now, we're not meant to kind of bring along these old paradigms and old ways of being. This year and everything that has shown up for us and provided us an opportunity is a really nice way to put it, but it's giving us a gift of recognizing what is no longer working. And for me, what they've invited me into through this creation of Guided by Equus, they're the ones that are guiding me. And so if I keep showing up thinking that I know how to do this, there's no room for learning and no room for evolving that relationship. And so with Summer, I'm just going to move a little bit because I'm kind of getting cold. With Summer, and she's not too interested right now, but what I finally recognized is that every time I show up here, she's asking me to actually take a step back and create some space for being able to be receptive rather than coming in here to just do the thing that I've always done. Because when we do the thing that we've always done, we're still operating from that old paradigm, an old protective patterning that for myself, what I finally realized too, was it was kind of a protection of not wanting to be able to feel that sensitivity, because when I was a kid and I could feel that, I received a lot of incongruent responses, and I learned to not trust what it was that I was feeling. And so I kind of closed that down and blocked that off. And if you're listening, you're probably very much like me, and that's very empathic as a child. And so when you can feel all of these things, but you don't know what to do with it, the best way that I learned how to protect myself was to just shut that down, because if I spoke about it, I would often receive feedback that was a way of someone else protecting themselves, let's say that. And yet with the horses, I was allowed to just be myself, and so there was at least that doorway that gave me an opportunity to kind of continue to follow this through my life. And where it's led me now is that everything we've been doing here is great, and it's been expanding. And this is another aspect of building into a deeper part of this relationship through being able to connect to these guys in a way that actually, I'll use the words, goes beyond borders. And I've known that to be true because in the last couple of years, I've really recognized and developed my intuitive abilities to communicate with them beyond the realms of this pen. But I've found it's a lot easier to do that when they're not your own animals, because when they're your own animals, they're here for our own soul's evolution. And so they're showing us the parts of ourselves that we're not even conscious of. And if you can have a human who can help guide you through that, it sometimes is easier as long as that human doesn't have their own filter on. And that's the risk we run, not a risk we run, but that can happen, let's say, when it's a human-to-human interaction, because as humans, we all have filters. We all have experiences and wounds that we're kind of carrying and holding on to. And with the horses, all they're doing is revealing these depths of who we are. But until we can learn how to understand what they're trying to show us, and so that's what this year that most challenged me was really about, is trying to understand what Summer was trying to show not only myself, but Rayanne also. And it was the experience of having to experience that, because if you experience it, you have to move it through yourself. It's not just like about learning it from a book and talking about it, because those are two different things. And my dog's just joined us. And so when we experience it and we actually have to move through it, that's an embodied learning. And when we embody that learning, we can then teach it. And so what I also realized is having my daughter here to be able to teach this to, it's like a two-part way of learning. The student becomes the teacher, I guess, is a good way to say that. I am learning from the horses, and having Ryan there, I'm also sharing with her what I've just learned, so she can then learn it. And as I move it through as what I've just learned, it then becomes a teaching outside of myself. So I'm super excited about this for me, and I feel like there's a lot of growth that can be had in here, and a commitment to really taking a step back and being available for what the horses want to show me. But also, part of this too is, what has been your greatest challenge this year? Where can you go back in the year and recognize there was this one thing, or there was this one aspect of my life that I just felt blocked in, or not supported, or like I couldn't get ahead with it. And so with today's video, if you can just take a step back, and even if you do it right now or watch this video again, take a step back. It actually allows you to take a breath and create space both within your body and your energy field, to have the answer come to you. Because the last piece of this is that about a month and a half ago, Rayanne and I were working with a different horse, and she said, "Mom, you just need to create space for her to find you." And I said, "Oh, well, that's great. How do I do that?" And she said, "Well, I don't know. You're the one that knows how to do this." But when we're so focused in on it, well, of course we know how to create space. But maybe we actually don't. And so it took me almost a month and a half to finally recognize, physically create that space. Take a step back, allow yourself to breathe, to ground into back here, so that you kind of open up to embrace whatever it is that needs to find you, to come to you. Because if we're always just pushing ahead and trying to narrow our focus and bring it, and there's a time and space for that, but when we're trying to receive and be receptive of what it is that we're noticing, or what it is that we want to witness, even ourselves through the experience of, we have to give ourselves space to be able to receive those insights. And as soon as you do, trust me, they will come in. It will come in through many forms, but even just giving yourself, taking a step back, allowing yourself to breathe and kind of drop into your body, all of a sudden you've created space in your energy field, in your body, and in your physical environment for those things to come and find you. And just a breath like that. Thank you so much. So much love from myself and Summer, and stay tuned for day 4, which will come through tomorrow. And thank you guys all for joining me here. And I love sharing these things, so stay tuned for more.